flexible and coming to our alternative locations. We're so blessed over here on the hilltop that we have multiple locations where we can hold things when necessary. So, thank you for, coming this way. I am gonna call the meeting to order. It is, 6:32. There's my secretary, Joe.
Yes.
Okay. And today was the 9th, right? Yeah, okay. Thank you.
Okay. Chair speaks right.
Here,
Vice Chair Fagan. Here. Treasurer Smith. Here. Secretary Rogers, present, and commissioners moving to my right. Rich Neal. Present. Maddox. Here. Bates. Here. And Lenny.
Here.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. That gives us 8 present after 15, so we do.
yeah, we do. We have it.
Absent are Leah, White, Simon Dallas, and Lee Moore. Probably missing. Oh, and Ashley.
Ashley.
Thank you. That's 9. See Jenny.
Should be missing 3. That will pull up in the comments.
Yeah, we're missing upon it. James, Simon, Lee, Jenny, and Andrew. And Simon, Jenny, and the third person you said are excused.
Malik.
Malik. Okay, which area we have more?
Thank you. Is it on? Hello? Oh, we do have. Is it on? I'll just speak loudly. Good. How about that? We do have a quorum. The secretary, Commissioner Ardro, sent out the minutes from last month. They were distributed by email. Are there any changes to the minutes?
I did not receive any.
Does any commissioner, there we go. Does any commissioner, I always want to say. Do any of the commissioners have anything? Okay. So I motion that the minutes be approved, as distributed. Second. Second. Okay.
Thank you. Did we, were there any additions or deletions to the agenda?
No.
Okay.
Oh, are there any additions or deletions? I've added and deleted for about 7 days, so, yeah, no, that shouldn't be in. Okay. Mhm.
And, we need a,
Yeah, I was trying to wait till they was done with the crackling. Yeah. Thank you, Dan. Okay. All in favor of the last month's meeting, approval?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, so the approval's passed.
Great, thank you.
Everybody said aye. So now we're gonna move along. This will be a short meeting, apparently. We're gonna move along to the City of Columbus staff report. I don't think Ms. Councilmember Bankston is here yet. Okay, so as soon as he comes in, oh. Okay, great. And we do have a podium right there. That's where Dan placed it. So you can stand there if you
I
want.
can stand there.
Okay.
Makes it stand. Right.
Does he need a mic?
Do I need a mic? I don't know.
I mean, just because
Yeah.
echo.
Yes. isn't it? All right, everybody.
Turn it on.
It is. I can't hear myself. That's okay. I don't need to hear myself do it.
I didn't hear it on.
It's not on. Says it's on. Says it's on.
Turn it off and send it
So it
back
does say
on.
it's on. All right, I'll speak loudly.
Okay.
If that works.
Yeah.
All right, everybody does know I'm Sergeant Murphy, Homeless Division of Police. So the only thing I really got to report to the commission this meeting is we do have a total of our crime numbers for zone 3, which is, now this tails the entire west side. It doesn't tease out just the greater Hilltop area commission boundaries. But it's still pretty representative of where our crime statistics are at this point in time. And what we recently had was a comparison of the statistics between 2023 first quarter, 2023 first quarter, 2024. So just everything is down significantly crime-wise when we start measuring things, especially like major crimes. Felonious assaults that involve shootings are down 38%. Non-felonious assaults not involving shootings are down 38%. Discharging into habitations, that's when somebody shoots into a house, somebody's inside of it, is down 40%. Accidental shootings are down 50%. Discharging at firearms, which we are able to accurately track thanks to the shot spotter, is down 38%. Armed robberies down 38%. Carjackings, which there's not a whole lot of those, that's a low number anyway, but still down 17%. And I'm not gonna lie. All right, so far, zone 3, the first quarter of this year, we have 0 homicides.
Yeah.
Down 100%.
Yeah.
Down. So I'm not gonna sit up here and take credit for that. We are one piece of an entire big puzzle that helps solve many of those issues. So when we start, we address these things in a community-based type of approach. And then when we actually, when the police, we are more laser focused on our most highly violent, problematic individuals, that's when we can have those type of drastic reductions. We know that for every one person that we charge with either murder or felonious homicide is probably responsible for 3, 4, 5 other ones. So it's kind of those type of things where we can, like I said, focus our attentions on the people that we know are the worst, and to be able to, to do that so that, we can report back that, these overall numbers across the board are coming down. And again, like I said, I hated to say that because I know as soon as I do it, I jinx it. But at the end of the day, even with the significant reductions like that, I think as we continue to work together as a community with the police department and I like the total package that goes into it, we're starting to look at, reroute interventions with young people before they get to the point where they're having, before something bad like this happens. Our alternative responses, we have our mental health counselors dealing with people in mental health crisis before the police get there. I mean, these are all the types of things that allow us to then focus in on the things we really need to focus in on, and then also get people services and provide people with opportunities to get away from those type of violent situations. So again, it's an entire community approach, and that's why we got here where we are today. So hopefully we can continue on the same path. Anybody have any questions for me today?
There's a question.
Yes.
So since you're comparing this to last year, when did the community approach begin? Can you definitely say that that's the community approach?
I personally have been involved in the community approach here on the west side of town since 2018. But there's been a whole lot of other things that's been added on top of that since then. Now, I hate to say, this is the thing, is we're too new into this to give answers on causation. Okay, so what we need to do is to start taking a significant look at and do some really deep dive research into, what are the things that have been effective at making this happen as opposed to what hasn't. So we've had a very strong community approach for a long period of time out here, especially on the west side. But we don't want to do the causation.
So is that same approach being taken in other areas?
Yes.
That's still up, and have they also seen a reduction in crime?
I haven't looked. Okay, so I focus on solely along the west side of town. So it's often I don't always grab outside of my scope. Just I focus on home, if you will.
And, go ahead.
I was just gonna say, has more funding been put toward like the mental health crisis part of
Yes.
it and things? Is that Columbus wide or our neighborhood?
No, it's Columbus. It's citywide.
Okay.
Yes. Yes, sir.
Just question, so the zero homicide, what time period is that?
That's the first quarter of 2023 is, so to first quarter of 2024. Zone 3 has not had a homicide in 2024.
Okay,
So West Side County has not had one in 2024. Okay.
thank you.
Mhm. All right. As always, it's a pleasure, ladies and gentlemen.
Thank
for
you,
your time.
Ty. Thank you. We appreciate you. So, next we have, Council Member Bankston, who is visiting us today. And so he'll be the next to speak. Yes. Uh-huh.
Would you be willing to try this microphone? If it starts to squeak, just.
Yeah, I am former minister, Baptist minister, and we have a church, so.
Yeah, no summer in.
And I'll be super brief because I know that you all have a agenda. But I'm Councilmember Nick Bankston, represent you on Columbus City Council. And my role is very simple here this evening. Want to just introduce or reintroduce myself to folks as well as my team. And also to let you know what my committees are, talk about the changes that have happened at City Council, and then also if there is time, Madam Chair, happy to entertain major issues, questions, or what have you. And one, let me start by saying that I'm starting my second term on City Council. And I said to my team, we're going to start our second term the same way we started the first term, which is we went to every single area commission in the first 100 days. And so that's how we're starting our second term, which is in community, making sure that we are engaging with folks. And so excited to continue to serve you. One, as you all are aware, council has expanded and also gone to a hybrid system. So we are districts at large, meaning that we went from 7 at-large council members to now 9 council members that represent 9 different districts, but are also still voted on by every single member of the city. And so for me, I represent District 5. That's the northeast side of the city, everything north of the airport and everything east of basically the Westerville Road. So I have the pleasure of a bunch of folks that got New Albany and Westerville addresses that I have to convince they live in the city of Columbus, and we're working on that. But I still represent every single resident. So we didn't want to just go to the area commissions on that side of town. We wanted to go to every single area commission. With me today, I had my team, JP Dorval, who has been with me from the beginning of my first term. JP is our legislative aide for the office. I call him the bureaucracy whisperer. So he does all of our internal government, all of our policy shaping, navigating all of the departments. And so really thankful for him, his leadership in our office. We also have Jonathan Brown. Jonathan will be your best friend. He's my boss at City Hall. So he tells me where to go, what to say, what to wear. Then I get in trouble because I don't say typically what he tells me to say, and so we're still working on that aspect of it. But Jonathan manages our calendar, all of our external communication and constituency affairs. So when you call the office, you're most likely 90% going to reach Jonathan. So I'm proud of these 2 young gentlemen. We wanted to make sure that you had a face with the name when you call my office. Then also you have Cole Calloway, who is our liaison for our community relations team at City Council. So even though I'm not here, my team's not here every single day, Cole is here, and he's making sure that he's reporting back to us what's happening. For this current term, or half term, I should say, the next 2 years, I'll be chairing our Finance and Governance Committee. That consists of our entire Department of Finance and Management, so that's all of the city's assets, all of our fleet, as well as preparation for both the operating and capital budget is in that. And so we're actually about to get into capital budget season, so you'll be hearing a lot more from our office and the area commission will be. And then also in that committee is our Department of Technology, so the entire Department of Technology. That's Finance and Governance. The other committee that I chair is the Economic Development and Small Minority Business Committee. So that is all of the economic development side of our Department of Development, so all of our job creation, all of our small business supports, and then also our Office of Diversity and Inclusion. So all of our efforts around minority business participation and making sure that we're getting folks certified. So that is really all I had in a nutshell. Wanted to make sure that you knew who we were, that we got you our contact, and also to say my thanks and appreciation. I served as an area commissioner for a very long year. It was only 1 year, but I served as an area commissioner in Franklinton And so I know, firsthand, what these meetings mean. The issues that our city faces, they're not gonna be solved at City Hall. And also, we're not always gonna agree on the path forward. But what I'm committed to, and what I'm always trying to be committed to, is being open, being honest, being authentic, and making sure that I have dialogue with community. You all are the resident experts. Our city is 225 square miles, over 910,000 residents and growing. I can't be in all places at once, but you know your side of town more intimately than I ever do. And so I rely on your input. And now when we come to that table, we may not agree on necessarily the path forward, but what I'm committed to is having an open table, and we can discuss the issues of our community and work together to solve it. And so to this body, I say thank you, because you all don't do it for the pay. You don't do it for the admiration, and you don't do it because your name is somewhere out there, but you do it because you care about not only the direction of the hilltop, but the direction of our city. And so I see a lot of familiar faces around the table that I've had the chance to work with, that you all have reported to me, and the type of leader that I am. So excited to be here, and just want to say thank you to this body again for all the work that you are doing. Continue to work in partnership with us. So with that, Madam Chair, I will stop. Entertain any questions, comments. Also, I like compliments too. Just joking.
Yes.
I was curious, now that there's 9 city council members, are there now 9 committees, or have committees been sort of reconfigured or what? I'm just curious about that.
Yeah, so we did a entire reshuffle of the committees. I'm looking at JP, I believe there's 11 now. So we went from almost 20 down to 11, and that was purposeful, in that we wanted every council member to share one big thing. And we started to form our committees at council around the themes of things that we found that were important. Before, we used to form our committees just around the departments and which department did what versus what the themes are. And so there are 11, so only 2 council members chair 2 different committees. So myself and Councilmember Dorrance, he chairs our new Labor, Education, and Workforce Committee, and also the Zoning Committee, which is a whole separate thing that all council members serve on. But yes, we did downsize the size of the committees, which increases the amount of work for each council member. But I also think it strengthens each council member to be able to sink their teeth into one expertise area versus before, each of us had 3 or 4 committees. Yeah, so thank you for that question. Yes, sir.
When will you vote against a tax abatement?
When will I vote against the tax abatement?
Yes.
Well, I definitely, what we bring to the floor are things that I believe in that create jobs.
What about our schools?
So everything that comes to the city that requests an abatement doesn't get it. And actually, in my tenure on council, I have actually dismantled over 5 tax abatements, those that weren't performable. So we evaluate them every single year to make sure that they are doing what they say they're going to do and generating the jobs that they say they're going to generate. And when they don't do that, I'm the first one to say, we are not going to let them continue to happen. So it is a performance-based thing.
What about the schools, sir?
Yeah, how does that affect school funding?
So
School
school funding is an interesting formula, right? So when they go to voters for a certain amount, the district is going to receive that amount. So when it comes to tax abatements, let's take property, I don't know, right next door to us. Whatever the value of that property is, those folks continue to pay their tax abatements. Now, what the tax abatement does is it foregoes the additional tax that they would pay on the new value, right? If they're paying $500,000 a year or whatever it is, they're going to continue to pay that. Now, if the property value goes up, that is what's foregone. Also, I want to be very clear about tax abatements is that they are only for a period of time. They are a tool to generate development, to generate income, and more importantly, to generate jobs for our community. I'm sorry.
Why our schools suffer?
I think that our
The
schools,
money should go to schools
I think that our-
instead of corporate welfare.
I appreciate that, sir. But what I would say is that I think our school formula, one, it has been declared now for over 20 years that it is unconstitutional how we run schools in the state of Ohio. The Supreme Court has ruled that. Our state house refuses to do anything about that or to change the formula. But what I will tell you is that education absolutely is important. We're going to continue to do that. But also what's important is to make sure that that parent has a job to go to, that we're able to reinvest back into our communities. So again, I will give you an example. Gowdy Fields is a project out off of Olentangy River Road for Spectrum, if you know that headquarters. That was once a brownfield that the city owned. It had a tax abatement. It was generating nearly $0 for our school district. After its tax abatement has gone, it is now generating over $400,000 a year in tax income. That's just one example. And so when I talk about abatements, absolutely, I would say this. You have every right to be upset because for years, we have used it as a blunt instrument and not a surgical tool. And it has to be a surgical tool because that's what it is. We can't just give it out to everyone. And so what I will say is that I'm proud of the ones that we have done and under my leadership. I can't take credit for what was done before me. We've closed loopholes around single family homes to make sure that if you get a tax abatement for a single family home, that you make it no more than 120% AMI to ensure that those homes are going to the people that are affordable or first-time home buyers. So we're closing the loopholes and we're trying to close the gaps. But you're absolutely right to be upset because I believe for a long time, it has been used as a blunt object and not as a surgical tool to make sure that we drive investment. But it also is that same tool that got us things like Hyperion that's coming to this side of town. It's going to generate about 500 jobs and also bring new industry to this side of town. So it's a tool that has to be used in a strategic way. And for many years, unfortunately, it hasn't. And so we have the opportunity and ability to say what we want to do. I will also say I'm proud that under my leadership, now if you do want any type of incentive from the city from a job creation standpoint, you have to pay folks $20 an hour. Not only do you pay folks $20 an hour, you have to give them healthcare and you have to give them retirement. So that's what we should be using that incentive for, not just simply just giving it out.
Well, we'll have one more question because we do have an agenda. I know the commissioner has a question, but we want to move along because we want to stay on time. So
I can postpone it for community members and else.
no, I didn't see any others, so you're next.
Thank you very much for being here, Councilmember. I'm curious in your second term, looking out across the city, what you think over the last number of years has been the biggest challenge for Columbus, and what do you think are the biggest successes, either that you've seen or on the horizon?
Yeah, I simply one word to go. Let's grow. We continue to grow, and it's not unfortunately because of the beaches and the weather, right? It's because folks want to be here. They see opportunity here. But with that same opportunity, with that same growth comes different challenges and pain points that we have to address as a community. And I will tell you, I'd rather be addressing things that all other cities are addressing, by the way, right? When we talk about crime, which is down now, right? When we talk about housing and homelessness, which is up, unfortunately, these are all things that all major cities are dealing with. But every other major city doesn't have the fact they're the fastest growing region in the country, right? And so the growth is here, there is more coming, and we have to figure out how do we leverage it and how do we become better? This is not a question of if we will become bigger. We know that we're going to be bigger. I think about it, I'm a kid born and raised in Columbus. When I was growing up, Easton was trees. Polaris didn't exist. I think the only thing I had Polaris was Bank One, right? And now just look at the massive growth that we see. I lived in a subdivision that when I was a kid was farmland, right? And so that growth is amazing, but we have to make sure that the next stage of our city, everybody shares in that success. And so we have to do things like the Columbus Promise Program that make sure that every single Columbus City school kid gets to go to college tuition free so that they can have that burden taken off of it. We have to do things like what Councilmember Favor is doing to close the loophole and make sure that everything that is developed in the city has some type of affordability into it to make sure that we're closing the loophole. We have to do big things like our zoning initiative that this body has been well amidst it to say we have an outdated zoning code that is not conducive for the growth of our city. And we also have to tackle things like transit to make sure that folks can get around the city with dignity without a car. And those are the things that we're trying to tackle. Now, those are big things that everyone doesn't agree on, and that's okay. I'm here to make the tough decision because I'm raising a 3-year-old son, and I think about what type of city he's going to inherit. And today, the decisions that we make are going to impact that next generation. And we have to work together to do the big, bold, necessary things in this moment. So growth is our biggest pain point, but it's also our biggest opportunity. And I just want to give a shout out to the sergeant. Not only are there no homicides on this side of town, we have 18 total for the entire city. 18. That is a number that is a historic low. And I believe that it's because of the investments that we've been making in our young folks. It is because neighbors are rolling their sleeves and saying, we're going to take back our communities and that we're going to be in relationship with each other once again, because that's how we're going to get ahead of this, is making sure that we infuse the human element back into our communities. And so, again, thank you for that question, but I'm excited about our growth. I'm also, challenged by it and making sure that we're keeping up with it.
Thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
Appreciate it. Yes. Anything, get anything else?
No, ma'am.
Okay, we don't either.
All right.
Okay, thanks so much.
So I don't like to overstay my time.
No, you're fine. You're fine. So next up, is City Attorney's Office, Mr. Dorsum.
Well, thank you, everybody. I am Rob Wilson from Columbus City Attorney Zach Klein's office. Appreciate the opportunity to be here with everybody tonight. I'm going to limit my comments to updates on a couple of pending matters with properties that we have going on here on the west side. I'm going to be a little limited in what I can share about cases that are currently in court, as both of these cases are. I believe last month I shared with everyone that we had filed a nuisance abatement lawsuit against the owners of 2958 Sullivan Avenue. That is an approximately 15-unit apartment building on Sullivan Avenue, where there's been a fairly long history of narcotics activity. I can share an update that that owner was subject to a preliminary injunction, a preliminary order, ordering them to do a series of things. Some of them are in steps that will indirectly, hopefully contribute to solving the problem, like sharing their rent roll with the city of Columbus. But it's also granting Columbus police trespass authorization to remove people from the property who are engaged in criminal activity, and things like that. Second, I will mention previously a landlord named Joseph Alora was subject to an injunction in a 2019 case, 2019 lawsuit the city filed, ordering that he keep any property that he owns in Franklin County in compliance with City of Columbus building, housing codes, and the like. But unfortunately, that has not happened, and this afternoon, I filed a motion on behalf of Columbus City Attorney Zach Klein to hold Mr. Alora in contempt of court because of the results of some recent inspections of his properties. Sadly, that includes a few properties here on the hilltop. So that's, about the extent of what I can share with you on those two properties. I will say, I do think that we have exceptionally strong community organizations, and a good fabric, good framework here on the west side that not only is huge help to me in doing my job and getting information about properties that are causing problems, but I think it contributes to making Vision Police's job easier as well, just from my observation. Happy to take any quick questions if we have time.
I have a question about, the apartment building that caught on fire on Broad last week. I know there's probably an investigation by the fire department, but the comments from the fire department sounded like it was not a safe environment and they had to fight the fire. So is that something that you all are looking into?
Definitely. There is a pending case involving code violations at that building. What I would say as far as the history goes, generally speaking, our code enforcement officers look to perform exterior inspections of buildings. Code enforcement, for various reasons, you know, it's possible to get a search warrant to go into a building, whether the owner consents or not. If the city has a probable cause to believe that there's code violations inside, for practical reasons, you know, code enforcement officers don't go around kicking doors down. So I don't know that I can, talk about the interior of the building in an informed way, but I can tell you that we had a pending case on that property. I did stop to speak with some of the firefighters on scene, and got some information from them as well. So it's something that I'm gonna be keeping a close eye on for sure. So it's an excellent question. Yes, sir.
I had a, so are there any updates on Greyhound at all? The Greyhound?
I believe, and I can tell you all the dates if you want to know. I'm happy to follow up, but the discussion was about setting it for a date in late May. I was remiss in not checking the docket before tonight's meeting, but setting it for a date next month. Yes, sir.
We have 2 apartment buildings, since they have taken the canisters away. That since that time period, they just throw their trash right in the alley. I have called, I'm on record 4 times, trying to get something done. If you go out there right now, I have pictures. It's still out there. That's a health problem. Not only have I seen the increase of rodents, I've seen raccoons coming into our neighborhood because it's a good place to eat. Hadn't done anything yet, and the apartment right across the street from me. Not only those 2 apartments are negligent on their trash pickup, they don't have any canisters to pick up. And the one is it has been, for me, I've been there 31 years now. It's been a trap house for years. I think right now it's 1938. They go to the back all night long. They pull in front of your house, wake you up. So that has been a severe problem on Columbian Avenue that I can speak about. But the trash, to me, is shameful. We talk about cleaning up the city. And you know, we can't get help to clean up Columbian Avenue. And, you know, I think we need something done about that right away, because I've called, complained, the neighbor, they have the trash on her property. She can't even cut her grass in the alleyway right there. So those are my complaints right now, need addressed.
Thank you for sharing that. You said, how confident are you in that address? You say 1938 Columbia.
Well, 1938 is the, right across the street. That's the trap house. I'm confident that 1908, I think, is the apartment building. Right in the alley next to me, 1908. Yeah.
And those are both in the address on Columbian.
No, so
One is on Sullivan and they're on, one's on Columbia, one's on Sullivan. 1908 is on Sullivan, 1938 is on Columbia. Yeah.
Thank you. I will follow up.
Okay, I appreciate it.
Appreciate you. Any other questions that we have time for?
We're behind. We have 2 questions, so we'll take these last 2 questions and then we'll move along. Go ahead.
I was just gonna ask, thanks for your email on that $50 incident. If you had any update or you still need another month or so.
I do not have an update right now. I'd like to put you in touch with my colleague who is taking point on that matter. And if I may, Commissioner was asking me about issues related to Family Dollar. She and I spoke about some issues involving trash at Family Dollar. And I said that was something that was on our radar. So, yeah. Yes, ma'am.
Since I'm new here, I'm gonna ask, how many zone attorneys do we have for the city of Columbus?
That's an excellent question. 6.
So when we go to the new zones, will each zone have their own zone attorney?
Each zone does currently have their own zone attorney. I'm proud to cover zone 3, which is the west side, including Hilltop. Glenwood to the western edge of the city, Roberts Road and southern edge of the city is roughly my jurisdiction.
Did that answer your question?
Well, I'm just thinking about a particular property that we had a problem with, 324 North Burgess. That probably went on for 14 years. And I don't understand the length of time we had all been affected. I mean, the SWAT team had been there. I mean, they were dealing drugs, those people out, the next people were dealing, you know, that guy who rented the house, which had been his mother and father's, after they passed, then he inherited it, and it just became a huge problem for 14 years. So I sunk a bunch of money into the front of my property because the front's not used on this big hill, because I don't want people coming. I was trying to sell my house. People had to come to the back to come to my house. So I've been sinking all this money into the front of my house to get it more saleable, because it took 14 years to get rid of this problem at 324 North Burgess. So I just don't understand the length of time.
Yeah, that's a question that is going to be difficult to answer generally. And it sounds like, and I need to share for context. I love my job. I love it, and I started it in January. So anything before that is going to be before my time. Sometimes it's a question of the investigation being with the police. In the case of a drug house, I don't know about 14 years. That certainly doesn't strike me as a plausible length for a single investigation. I simply don't know what happened with that property one way or another. But we do wait for our clients, whether it's code enforcement, division, police, et cetera, to complete their investigations. And sometimes we are aware of the problem, but, before we file a lawsuit, the board of division of police needs to complete their investigation and gather evidence. And sometimes that's even just gathering evidence to enable us to prove it enough in court, we can work it up. But difficult question to answer in general, and I regret that.
Thank
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
I'll stick with it.
Thank you. So next up, we have, Mr. Paul Calloway from, he's the legislative analyst with, the Division of Community Engagement with the city.
Hello. Thank you so much for having me this evening. I will be very, very brief. So I just have a couple of events to put on you guys' radar. For one, we have our council academy, and that's going to be focused on affordable housing this month. And we will be having it at the Parsons Library. So that will be happening on Thursday, April 25th. So feel free to come out with that and learn more about what we are doing in the affordable housing space. At 6 o'clock. Additionally, we have our Northside Council Community Meeting that is happening this month. And then directly following next month, we're gonna have our West Side Council Community Meeting. So I'm sure that will be the one that you guys will probably want to tune in and show up to. The West Side Council Community Meeting, we're still ironing out some of the details for it. But tentatively, we are planning on having that May 8th. That's gonna be at 6 o'clock. And the location is still to be determined, but it's between the Hilltop Early Learning Center and then also the GHAC Community Center. So it's gonna be in the same area. We're just trying to iron out which location we'll select. And then in terms of our specific council offices, Councilmember Christopher White is having a office hours or community hours happening on April 11th. The location is escaping me right now, but that's happening April 11th. If you talk to me after, because I don't have it right in front of me, I will give you the time and location. It's actually happening at 6 o'clock, but I'll have the location for you. Oh, wait. Lizelle. It was right there, it escaped me, but again, if you talk to me after, I'll give you additional information about that. And that's it.
Thank you.
Questions?
Any questions for Mr. Paul? No, Commissioner? No, we're good.
Thank you.
Thank you. Miss Eddie is not here, because we had to move our meeting because of the weather last week. we wanted to make sure everybody was safe, so we moved it for today. She is actually probably at Franklinton's commission meeting, right? Because this is their normal time, so we'll forgive her for that. But yes, she may come in later. And if she does, I'll ask her to give her announcements. Last is Nick Plow. Is he here? No, he's not here. Is he? Okay. So he is not in attendance, and I do believe now that I remember, after all the hundreds of emails I got to reschedule this thing, that he wasn't going to be able to be here tonight. So that's all good. So moving along, are there any announcements from commissioners?
I will announce that phase 1 of the Zone In initiative has been released for public input. And let me see if I can find the correct. Yeah. Okay, it's on our Facebook page.
Yes.
Yeah, the public 60-day public comment period.
Yeah. So make sure you go out there and leave your comments. That's the perfect place to do it regarding the new zoning proposal of changes, okay? Any other from commissioners? No? Any from community?
Oh, sorry, I do have one.
Like, you're not community, but you are.
Well, thank you. Thank you to everyone who helped out on last Saturday with the Highland West Civic Association litter cleanup. That was in partnership with Hilltop Rise along Broad Street, but we do have one more coming up where the Civic does this Saturday, April 13th. I believe it's 10 a.m. at Glenwood Rec Center. To help clearing out some debris in the newly restored natural park at the bottom. So if you're available next Saturday, we'd love to see you out there with some pictures.
And
I believe it's 10 a.m.
I'm gonna say, there's a lot of cleanups happening on the hilltop, which I think is amazing. There's so many civic associations over here that do the same type of work, and that's what it takes. Honestly, I know there's one every Friday for South Central, that's where I'm at. And so if you wanna participate in that, you can do that. It's only an hour on Fridays at noon. And you can go on Facebook and see that. And so I just think it's gonna take all of us as well, to do those things. Is there any other announcements? Having heard none, we have a presentation, from Stephanie Kinsler. She's the principal planner at zoning code, it's a zoning code update, and she's with Building and Zoning Services.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I'm not used to using one of these. Can you hear me okay? Wonderful. Okay. Thank you for having me, giving me the opportunity tonight to give you an update on the Zone In initiative, which is the city's effort to modernize the zoning code. I am standing in for James Lewis, who was going to be here last week, but has a schedule conflict due to the rescheduling with the weather. So I apologize in advance. I don't have a presentation prepared, but I do have some talking points I'd like to walk you through just to introduce you to this draft code. And then at the end, I'll point you to where you can find the full code, the map, where you can provide your feedback. There's a couple different options for doing that. And then I'll be able to point you in the direction of the folks who can answer any questions that I may not. So first, I just wanted to give a brief background of kind of why we need to update the code and how we got here. I'm sure many folks in this room have been involved in this process throughout, and for anyone who's hearing about this recently or for the first time, essentially the current code that we have is broken. It's over 70 years old. If you think about how different the world is today than it was 70 years ago, it's overdue for an update. But in addition to just being old, frankly, it's inequitable. It has furthered racial segregation. It encouraged car-centric sprawl as just the popular pattern of development at the time that it was created. As this body knows probably better than most, it causes the need for many, many variances, which can cost time and money. And that in itself can be an inequity for folks who don't have the resources or the time to dedicate to going through that process. And then lastly, it is difficult to implement fairly when you have to do negotiations on a case on a parcel by parcel basis. So for all those things, as I said, the code is broken. But the other side of the coin, as we heard Councilmember Bankston say, Columbus is growing. We're the fastest growing region in the Midwest, which is amazing. But with that, sometimes comes some unintended consequences. And one of those for Columbus is we are facing a housing shortage. This is probably not news to many people, but statistically, the data shows that the region needs to construct approximately 200,000 new units over the next 10 years, just to keep up with demand, which is quite a bit. And one of the ways that we can be most impactful in doing that would be to modernize the zoning code along the corridors. As a part of this project, a capacity analysis was conducted that basically looked at the current code and along the corridors and said that, if left as is, we could expect the market to produce about 6,000 new housing units along the primary corridors. Whereas if we looked at the proposal as drafted right now, it's available for the public, the capacity analysis suggests that the new code could produce 88,000 units in the near term, which is 44% of that 200,000, which is a regional need, 200,000. That's not just within the city of Columbus. So that's kind of the why. And then the how we got here, this is just phase one of the zoning code update. This is for the primary corridors. You'll see that when you look at the map. But phase one kicked off in fall of 2022. You may have seen the undesigned the red line exhibit that circulated throughout the city. It was hosted downtown for a while, but that was really the kickoff for this phase one initiative. Since then, there have been several rounds of going to area commissions and different community groups to try to engage folks on this effort. Additionally, there were opportunities for the community at large to engage. That included, I think we were calling them community conversations. So there was a series of events around that. There was a survey that went out, and then there were also several workshops. So as all this engagement is happening, the consultant and the city are gathering and synthesizing data and working on this draft that's now available for public comment. So that leads us to last night. City Council adopted a resolution to accept this phase one proposal. And all that means is that they are moving forward with public review. The zoning code hasn't already been updated. All this does is open the public comment period for this draft. It is a 60-day public comment period that runs from now through June 10th. And I just want to emphasize that after June 10th, I don't have any information on how the process is going to go, what the dates are going to be. Council is going to take the feedback that's received during this 60-day comment period and then reevaluate. So do we need additional time for comment? Is it time to take action, et cetera? So I'm not sure. I'm not able to answer any questions on what's next after June 10th. But just to kind of assure everyone that should council vote on this in the summer, it's likely that it will be a while before we start to see changes in the built environment as this has to work through the process. So with that, I just wanted to briefly introduce you all to the draft code. And I do have some handouts that I will pass out for folks after the fact, and I've got the little QR code to the website. That'll be most helpful in looking through this information. So you may hear this referred to, so it's Zone In is the initiative. You may hear this draft referred to as phase one or Title 34. The current zoning code is Title 33, so this is Title 34. Just for what it's worth, as we make this transition from 33 to 34, just know that both codes will work in tandem. There are 5 identified priorities to phase one, and those include more housing in more places, I'm paraphrasing, supporting jobs and businesses, promoting a more equitable city, creating more and better connected communities, and then fostering good urban design. In this phase one of the code, of this draft, there are 4 key takeaways I'd like to share with you all. The first one being height and affordability height bonuses. So what that means is that in the zones in this draft document, you'll see a base height for how tall buildings can be built. Some of the zones include an affordability height bonus, which basically means in exchange for a percentage of units that a developer is wanting to build, which have to meet the CRA, the community reinvestment area criteria that's already been established by the city, they are allowed to build higher. And the code explicitly says what the limit of that height is. And we'll talk more about that in a moment. And with this, there is no opportunity to do an in lieu of payment. So they can't pay a fee instead of dedicating those units. The next thing is market-driven parking. So this draft code eliminates parking minimums, which is a major cost to new developments. Rest assured that it is unlikely that projects will be developed with no parking. We have an example of this downtown. They have had no parking minimums for at least 10 years. And you're not seeing new developments downtown built with zero parking. And then other cities have demonstrated this across the country. In their research, there's 56 other cities that have been looked at that have done this. And then just thinking about it logically, as a developer, the marketability of their units, if they're not building parking, that's going to be a challenge for them. So what this really does is instead of the current code right now says they're required to build 1.5 parking spaces per unit. This basically just leaves it up to them to decide based on where they're located, if they're on transit, the types of units they're building, how many parking spaces do they think they need. And then again, just knowing that there will be checks and balances in place should a proposal come through that looks very wonky, it's a huge project, there's no parking, that, you know, the Department of Public Service or someone can have a conversation with them to make sure that everything is copacetic. The next thing is design standards. This is something new to our code. So the code will include a section of design standards. It'll be high quality design standards that are just going to be baked in there at the base so that everyone knows the rules that we're playing by, instead of negotiating on a case-by-case basis. And this ensures that there will be good urban design throughout the city, rather than just in places where there are like design review areas. And then the last thing is that existing uses and buildings will essentially be grandfathered in and only be required to conform under specific circumstances. So say there's a building on Broad Street right now that doesn't match the new zone that it would be assigned. If that building burns down, the owner can rebuild it exactly as it is. They don't have to conform. If there's a gas station, if it's a Casey's and it wants to sell to a Sheetz, so it's a gas station, it's gonna stay a gas station, but they're selling the property. They don't have to conform, they can stay a gas station. When they would have to conform would be if there's a change of use. So say there's a gas station that wants to turn into a Sonic. Well, the Sonic would need to be allowed under that zoning code. But we just want to make sure that everyone is aware that it is not coming in and imposing these new rules on all these existing parcels. So with that, the entire document and the map, which is going to show the corridors that this phase affects, they are available for comment. And the things that you'll see as you go through these documents are the zone placement, so which zone is going in which area, which parcels are affected by which zone. You'll also see a lot of the technical specifications that you're accustomed to seeing in the zoning code. So things like height, parking, frontage types, setbacks, articulation, adjacencies. So how a parcel relates to a parcel next to it or behind it. That stuff is all spelled out in the document that's available, so please review it. And we have it set up that you can comment directly on any part of the document, any part of the map, so that we can get that very hyper-specific feedback. And then this phase one, so I said it's along the primary corridors. It impacts about 4% of the parcels citywide. So this is, while it is quite impactful based on some of the statistics I rattled off earlier, it is rather small in comparison to the overall scale of the city. It's about 12, I think the exact number is 12,300, but it's between 12,000 and 13,000 parcels along these primary corridors. So what does that mean for the hilltop? That would be West Broad Street and Sullivan Avenue. This phase one of the code establishes 6 mixed-use districts. So everything in phase one is mixed-use district. There are 6 of them. In the hilltop, there are, so the 6 are urban general 1 and 2, urban center, urban core, community activity center, and regional activity center. So again, what does that mean for the hilltop? Looking at West Broad Street, Most of West Broad Street is being proposed for urban general one. And that means the allowable uses would be residential, office, retail, civic uses, or non-auto oriented commercial. The height limit is 4 stories and there is no bonus potential. So that's where it's maxed out at 4 stories. So there's not the opportunity to go to 7 stories or, whatever in that zone. It's 4 stories. And then I wanted to include a local example because I'm one that's like, okay, what does that look like somewhere else in the city? How can I visualize what that means? So an example of urban general one would be most of the urban corridors in the city that aren't like at a transportation node. So you have some of that existing already along Broad Street and Sullivan. Think about like High Street in the Clintonville area or like along Parsons. The next one in the on West Broad Street is Urban Center. We see that kind of sprinkled throughout as the little red. So the urban general one is the blue, the darker blue, and the red would be those urban center zones. And that's really at key intersections or transit stops. So an example would be in like West Broad and Hague. The allowable uses there are the same ones I just rattled off for urban general one. The height limit is a bit different. It's 5 stories as the base, but they could go up to 7 stories if they had that affordability bonus. It's not an additional 7 stories, it is 7 stories, is the maximum height. A local example of that would be if you think about the Near East, Main Street in the Near East, Summit and 4th, or like High and North Broadway would be examples. And then as you go further west towards like Great Western and towards 270, you get to the Regional Activity Center, which is kind of a grayish blue area. And the allowable uses there are residential, office, retail, civic, and then commercial. And here it is allowed to be that more auto-oriented suburban type use. The height limit here is 7 stories with up to 10 stories total if they did the affordability bonus. And a local example of something like this would be in Easton or Bridge Park. So those are the zones that would be along West Broad Street, and then moving down to Sullivan. Again, most of it is urban general one. That's all the same as the criteria that would be along West Broad. There is one node of urban center, and that's at Sullivan and Hague. But again, the same things that would apply on West Broad would apply on Sullivan. There's also one node of urban general 2, and that's near Westgate Park on the north side of Sullivan. So the allowable uses there, I don't think you can see it, it's kind of that light blue little chunk right there. So the allowable uses there would be residential, civic, office, and then small scale retail. That has a height limit of 4 stories as well with no bonus potential. As far as a local example, this zone is kind of unique, that it's really for kind of special areas that have their own development pattern anyways. So it would be select areas that either are residential or office zoning already, and it's kind of restrictive about the types of commercial that can go in that space. There are other areas of the city, I'm not sure if this is one of them, where if there's a whole block that has this development pattern, say they all have a certain setback and it kind of contributes to the feel of this part of the neighborhood. You'll see areas in the code where those may have some additional restrictions like on setback and things like that, just to maintain that character and the pattern of development. So that's urban general 2. And then the last one on Sullivan would be the Community Activity Center, which is as you go west, that's the yellow. So it really starts in like the Demarest Wilson area and then goes westward. The allowable uses there are residential, office, retail, civic, and then also those auto-oriented commercial, or just commercial in general. Height limit is 5 stories, up to 7 with the bonus. And then there really are no good local examples of this. But it really, what it does is it takes these more suburban and nature areas, but tries to make them a little bit more walkable and increase some of the urban character of it, but it's much more flexible than you can see in like the urban core district and things like that. So that's kind of how this phase 1 impacts the hilltop. Like I said, there are 6 different zones. You see 5 of them reflected here. And then, so really from here, what do we do? Next steps, comment, 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 comment. So we have several ways to receive feedback from folks. That's what this 60 days is for. The project website is most helpful. You can find all of these resources there. It's columbus.gov/zoning update. But if you just Google zone in Columbus is the first thing that's gonna come up. It's very interactive, you can provide feedback directly, you can click on the map, you can kind of see the left, it says, what do you think about the proposed district for this area? So you can zoom in really, really close and then answer this question. Are you okay with regional activity center here? So you can provide feedback directly on the map, and then you can also go verbatim through the code and say, I don't agree with the setback in this zone, etc. So the website is great. The other thing is we have what's been dubbed the zoning gallery. So that is at 141 North Front Street. If you're familiar with the location of the Michael Coleman building at 111 North Front Street, it's the parking garage right across the street. So there will be free parking there for folks to come visit us. It's going to be open 6 days a week during this comment period. And it's going to be staffed by city staff, planners, building and zoning folks. So there will always be folks there when it's open to engage one-on-one with folks that come in as we kind of walk you through, again, the background, the process, the why, the zones. And there's opportunity to provide feedback directly at the gallery if you would prefer to do it that way after talking to a staff member. On the website, there is a calendar that's very detailed, and you can actually RSVP for a time that works for you to come. There are dedicated hours for like area commissioners to come visit. There's also open hours for the public. The intent is to make this as available as possible. So if you look at it and you're interested in coming, but none of those times work for you, please contact the zoning team directly, and we will certainly do what we can to work to accommodate getting you into that space. It's a great space. It's been, you know, it's designed purposely by the consultant. So we're really excited to start sharing this with folks. And then just in addition to those two, you can also contact the zoning team directly. In this information I'll pass out, there is a QR code. I think that takes you directly to the website, but their contact information is on there as well. And then I can also leave it with your commissioners and they can distribute it if you need it directly. But the website is, or the email is zoningupdate@columbus.gov. And then they do have a direct phone number as well. The folks are manning to kind of field those calls and answer questions. And that number is 614-645-5343. And then, so in addition to the comment, please, we do hope to be back at your May meeting, just to check in to see if folks are getting a chance to go to the gallery, if there's any questions we can answer, and should there be any updates to provide at that time, we will certainly do that. And then, as I said earlier, after June 10th, it's kind of a question mark, but council will be, what we do know is that they're going to be taking this feedback and considering it, and then they'll be announcing next steps. That's what we have. If we have time for questions, I will attempt to answer them, but I can definitely point you in the right direction.
Yeah, we'll take 2 questions, Mr. Chair. Well, wait a minute. So I guess we'll take 3 questions, okay? So, well, from commissioners first. So you go.
I hear about growth and I understand growth. My concern is you can go from Broad Street to Mound Street. And we have so many, 10 or more houses on each street boarded up or in bad condition. And I don't know if there's no way that we can look at that situation, because part of that problem is you have slumlords, we call them, that provides for trap houses, as the young lady here was talking about. So my concern, I understand about the future, the growth, but I'm worried about the here and now, where I walk down the street, you talk about walking areas, we can't even have decent walking areas because we have these boarded houses up. We have houses that are in need of repair. But I hear the city people talking about progress. Progress is the house that we live in as hilltoppers haven't been addressed. So I hear what y'all are saying, but my concern for real is how do we improve what we already have? So, you know, sometimes, it's good music to the ears, but I'm living and seeing otherwise. So I go to Hilliard to ride my bike. I go walk on the track at Grandview in Upper Arlington. I don't even feel safe to walk to Glenwood Park sometimes, and I'm right down the street on Columbian Avenue. So I hear what you're saying, but I think our needs need to be addressed to those houses that are in dire straits where we live at, on the hilltop.
Certainly, no, and I can appreciate that and understand the concern. As far as my ability, I would always direct folks to 311, and if you have specific concerns, and I totally understand concerns about that, you know, maybe not getting a timely response. If there's something specific that you have submitted that, you feel like you haven't heard back from, you can certainly send it to me and I can try to facilitate getting it to who it needs to go to, but unfortunately, that's a little bit out of my, my wheelhouse, but I totally understand. Thank you.
Let's come up with a strategy. We'll come up with a strategy, how about that? Okay, you're next.
So one of my initial thoughts is, you know, you have kind of the recreational area limiting to 10. And so this might be more of a technical question, but why is it limited at 10 in those areas? Because I look at that corner of massive parking lot. You know, and right now there isn't much development going on in the hilltop, so maybe by the time development gets here, we're ready for some larger buildings in those kind of areas. So I don't know if there's a quick and easy answer to that. Do you know why they kind of capped it at 10 in that kind of area?
I don't have a quick and easy answer to that. It's definitely a question I would submit, but I will say that, the variance process is not going away. So there is still the possibility that should someone want to build something bigger, they can ask. But the purpose here is really to clean it up, so there's less of that, and we have a good base code, but technically someone could still come and request to build higher than this, so.
And kind of similar to that, on the UGN2 kind of area, you mentioned, yeah, I think you used the word, you know, to maintain the field 3 or 4 times. But then you referenced that would be up to the Department of Public Service to determine, and we could talk, you know, 10 feet setbacks, 8 feet, you know, and those kind of numbers. But that doesn't get to the field, where I think the area commissions would be much more equipped to be able to determine what is the feel of a specific area.
Sure. So the public service comment is relating more to parking. Should there be something with parking that comes through that's very wonky, they could intervene in that area. The urban general too really, like I said, there are specific areas of the city where it, and there is a calculation, and I believe that it is in the code if you want to check it out, but there are specific areas where it says, you know, traditional, the base code would say this should be a 0-foot setback, but we have this row of buildings that is 20-foot setback. So we're not going to tell, you know, if it meets these criteria, we're not going to tell a new developer to build at 0 feet because that's going to mess it up. So there are certain areas of the city, and that's really where this urban general too, and then that additional, if it has restrictions for, I believe the technical term for it, it's like a contextual setback, I think. So it just takes in context, you know, the things around it, as to not be disruptive to the development pattern. But those are all defined in the actual document.
Okay, great, thank you.
There was a question in there.
Yes.
Mayor Ginther's speech about the zoning talked about inclusivity, equity, fairness. So is the homeless population going to be equitably distributed amongst all the new zones, or is Hilltop going to continue to be the dumping grounds? And I'm not saying that lightly, because from my prior job, when I was an X-ray tech, I got to know a lot of people in urgent care. And some of the police officers that I X-rayed admitted to me that Grandview was moving their riffraff to the west side. So that I feel like that's been happening everywhere, because if you look at the number of like food banks from downtown up through Franklinton to Hilltop, there are 18 that are just listed on websites. So along with the food banks, we know there's rehab and shelters, etc. And then when you look at other zip codes, there are 0 food banks, 1 food bank. So are each of the zones going to have housing for homeless?
I can't speak to that specifically, but I will say that an urban general 1 in the Hilltop is going to have the same allowable uses that an urban general 1 somewhere else in the city is allowed to have. Certainly, as we're talking about this growth and this housing shortage, that is increasing the pressure on things like the homeless population. So I think the hope, and what you probably heard in Mayor Ginther's speech, was that by, you know, opening this up a little bit and making it more fair and things like that, that, you know, some of this additional construction would just start to alleviate that pressure a little bit. Certainly, that's not something we want to see continue to increase. But not something I can really speak directly to as it relates to what's in the code. But I can say that urban general one for the Hilltop is not different as far as allowable uses than it is anywhere else in the city.
But there's been no discussion in the new zones for homeless homes.
You would have to look at the table that's in the document to see what types of, I mean, it is broken out by different types of housing. So if there are things like shelters or things like that, you would be able to see which zones those are permitted in, if you look at that table. Thank you so much. Thank you.
Miss Eddie has arrived. Do you want to come to the podium?
Sure.
Okay.
Good evening, everyone. So sorry for my tardiness. I'm pulling double duty this evening, but I'm so glad to still get the opportunity to be with you here tonight. I do have quite a few announcements, so please bear with me. Sorry, for those of you in the audience that don't know me, my name is Olabisi Eddie. I'm the West Side Neighborhood Liaison with the City of Columbus through the Department of Neighborhoods. So I cover the Hilltop, Franklinton, and Weston areas. So first announcement, and this is directed to the commission. There's been some discussion and some previous issues with BZA applications. So each of the liaisons is just going to all of the commissions. So this isn't specific to any particular one. But we just want to remind you that of what you're voting on. So there is no recourse when you're issuing your recommendation on the terms outlined, when you're passing your, when you're making your motions, because there have been some instances where, elevations were presented, particular building materials were suggested, and then when the final product is done, it may not look like what was presented in the meeting. So that being said, it is a recommendation and there is no legal recourse if the developer decides to go in a different direction, whether it be because of funding changes or whatever other issues they may have along with the development process. That being said, which I know that this commission has done in the past, you do have the option of making your recommendation conditional on certain terms. And I would recommend that you go to city council or BZA development committee meeting to push forward those conditional terms. Because when council passes whatever variance or variance or zoning change that has been proposed, then it becomes codified and it can be enforceable. So I just want to put that out there, but there's another layer of advocacy that needs to happen if you want your conditional recommendations to be enforceable and for developers to be accountable.
Is there a reason the BZA or city council wouldn't just automatically add that in?
I unfortunately can't.
I would say they have to, but
Why
why are we spending our time doing it if they're not gonna even? We're the ones that know, we're the ones that are putting it in, and they're just like, It just seems we've already put in our effort. Why do we have to continue to put in our effort? That's just my only. Thank you.
And I do want to remind the area commission that you do have one seat reserved for you at city council. So you are more than welcome to come every week or whichever week you feel is necessary in order to advocate for whatever change you feel is necessary. So just wanted to put out that reminder for you. And I also wanted to share about social media. So there was a recent Supreme Court ruling, and as of March 15th, any mention of area commission business on private accounts will make that social media post public record and subject to a public records request. So you are in your capacity as area commissioners considered public officials. So that means you will not be able to delete comments, you will not be able to block people. It's considered protection for First Amendment rights. So please keep that in mind as you're reposting or sharing anything that could be considered area commission business. So, and that goes for me as well. So it makes my job a little bit harder, but you know, we do what we gotta do to make sure that people know what's going on in the community, right? Right. Also wanted to let you know that the Department of Neighborhoods is currently going through a rebranding for the Pride Centers. So as most of you know, the West Pride Center is located in Franklinton, West Franklinton off of Broad Street, although that may be changing soon, more to come with that. But they would like to hear your opinion on what the purpose of the Pride Center should be, who should be in there. As of right now, it's mostly the liaisons, and depending on which side of town, code officers may stop in. But we feel like the space could be utilized more efficiently to meet the needs of the community, and we would love to hear your thoughts and opinions on that. So we're hosting a listening session that's going to be on May 8th at 6 p.m. And that will be at the Near East Pride Center located on East Broad Street. And you should be receiving an invitation via email soon. Going on to the next thing. We're having our second our second open area commission fiscal process meeting that's actually set for tomorrow. This could potentially be the last meeting before our fiscal process is finalized. I don't have a definitive timeline just because we currently have a lot of pots in the fire with outreach season, sort of firing up within the Department of Neighborhoods, but I will pass along any new information that I have as I receive it. But if there is any suggestions that you would like to pass on, please let me know, and I'm more than happy to make sure DON leadership is aware of any suggestions or comments or concerns you may have. Speaking of training, area commission fiscal training, this will be for chairs and treasurers only. That's set for the 20th of this month from 10 to 11:30 a.m. And that will be last thing, actually, never mind, because zone in was just presented. Yeah, so, last thing, Columbus Rec and Parks is going through the process of creating their next 10-year plan. So this is a unique opportunity for the area commissions in their advocacy for improvement and new parks for their community. I know you guys have done a wonderful job in advocating for the improvement of parks in your area, but this is just another great opportunity for improvements of existing parks, but also acquisition of new parks. So I just wanted to put that on the table, especially as capital improvement requests begin to be received. So that is all I have for you. Do you have any questions for me?
The West Side Drive Center, is that building owned by the city or just rented?
It's rented.
Okay, and how many square feet is it?
Oh, I'm sorry, I can't tell you off the top of my head.
Pretty small. Right?
It's very small. Yes. Oh, Ashley.
Is the listening session for the Pride Center the same time as the West Side City Council meeting? Because they were on May 8th. That was what I had reported.
Oh dear.
Yeah.
6 p.m.
Yes.
It's the same time.
Okay. They're both May 8th
Yes.
at 6 p.m.
Can we give you our comments then?
I mean,
Pass them along.
absolutely, you're more than welcome to pass them along. Please do, please do. But I'll also share that information with leadership to see if there's anything that can be adjusted, so.
Or have a table at the West Side Community Council. Like an appropriate.
I just have a comment. That happens quite often, honestly, where there are dual meetings on the same day, same time. And so, it often gives the appearance of, non-collaboration, right? When you're wanting the community to come. So I don't know what we can do, or if there could be, send up a flagpole to say, can you check that before you start having these meetings? Because the city is huge. And the commissions aren't, can't go to everywhere, or the public can't go to everything, and they wanna go to both, so.
Absolutely.
Just finding a way to, keep it where it's accessible to everybody, those meetings.
No, thank you so much, and I'll definitely share that feedback. And, I did want to say, thank you guys so much just for your patience through, this past year, because it feels like, there's been a lot of changes just to the structures of area commissions, just in the, the deconstruction of different processes that have been in place for a long time. Our new budgeting process that's sort of being built in the air, and I feel like you guys have been very flexible and given us a lot of grace in this process. So I just want to extend my personal, but then on behalf of the department as well, just thank you so much for your continued patience in this, and we'll get it together. We'll get it together. So make sure you get what you need.
Thank you so much. Thank you. Next up is the reports of officers. I don't have anything, the chair. Vice Chair? Dan?
Because we're running out of time here. We talked a lot about the zone in initiative. On the website at 141 North 4th Street, they are going to be creating a gallery. There's free parking. Area commissioners are invited tomorrow night, the next night, 5:30 to 7:30. I'm personally going to go on Thursday evening this week in the area commission time slot. If anybody, I'm just encouraging every area commissioner to go to the gallery and experience that. Depending on how many people can go, maybe we could actually get a curated time and date for us as our commission if this week doesn't work. So
It's on North Front.
what did I say? Did I mess it up? Did I say fourth? I apologize. It's on North Front Street. Yes, on the ground floor. There's free parking if you go up.
It looks like a parking garage, but.
It is the first floor of the parking garage, yeah. And there's a free parking as you're coming up along, you turn on blood flow, I think it is. There's directions on the website for sure. And I can give everybody directions afterwards. The next Zone in Columbus meeting that's open to the public is right now scheduled for, Josh, I wrote it down, May 1st, 4 o'clock at that same location, 141 North 4th Street. Front Street, I'm sorry. I keep writing it forward. It's Front Street downtown. Thanks.
Okay, welcome. Maybe we can lead that effort to see how many wanna go together. Can you lead that?
Yeah.
Okay, great, thank you. Secretary?
Yes, thank you, Chair. The area commission has received a co-nomination. We've received a co-nomination of 2 students from West High School for our note-taker position, 2 young women. I'll be bringing this to government and legislation so we can basically discuss how we need to revise our bylaws, if at all, which will likely come to this body then for the May meeting. And then I'm anticipating that you and I should sit down with these young people and chat with them about the expectations, but.
Sounds good.
Thank you to Ashley also for helping to kickstart that. So at this time, I won't be asking you to do any outreach for us. We'll see how these first 2 come on these.
Great job, thank you. Treasurer?
I don't have too much, just, I updated the reports. This is a list of every motion where we've encumbered funds since the beginning of the year. We have, about $1,411 encumbered so far. To my knowledge, we've spent about $20, and we have about just under $1,391.11 remaining total between all those motions. And that's pretty much my treasury report.
Thank you. Next up, zoning. She needs a microphone.
Okay, we have 3 applications tonight, and I'm gonna try to go as quickly as possible through them. The first one that we are going to do is Mr. Wapner's application, and Josh, I emailed you this. Yeah, thank you. This is 1619 Sullivan Avenue. They are requesting a variance from the requirement that there be 2 parking spots for a single family dwelling, because they're going to construct a single family home on this lot. And Mr. Wapner, if you want to come up here and just explain what you're looking for. Really the concern here is that this front Sullivan Avenue, there aren't a lot of other driveways directly onto Sullivan here, which is for the best. Because it's not a very safe stretch of the road. And so at the zoning committee meeting, we unanimously supported this request for variance.
So I do have a set of pictures, but these also do a pretty good job of showing you if you would go back. Yeah, so the lot would fit a driveway. We just believe it's unsafe. It's parallel parking along Sullivan Avenue right here. So anyone backing out of this driveway would have their vision blocked by those cars. Also, adding a curb cut would essentially take away a street space. So we're taking away a street space to add 2 driveway spaces. We're really only gaining 1 space. And as Rachel mentioned, a lot of the other houses on this block also don't have driveway access. This specific block does not have an alley to serve the houses from the rear. So all the houses just park parallel on the street. If any commissioners would like to see additional street photos, I can put that in here, or a site plan, but I think these do a pretty adequate job of showing the situation.
There's a site plan.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, so there's no alley behind, it's just another parcel. I do have like a satellite view of my thumb.
And the house that you're building is single family, how many bedrooms, bathroom?
Single family, we'd likely do a 3-bedroom, 2-bath house, 2.5 bath house. That's, I believe, the model that we know fit on that lot.
Does anyone have any questions for Mr. Walker? Any questions for me?
Is this your personal property that you're building?
No, I work for a company, New City Homes.
Okay.
We do single family residential for sale and for rent in Hilltop. We focus in Franklinton, but we do a little bit of work in Hilltop.
Okay. And is that house been already sold, or is it being built to be put on?
This one would be built to rent.
Anyone? I'll make a motion to approve the requested variance, which would allow for 0 parking spots.
I'll second the motion.
Okay, and starting with the vote, I'll start with Co-Chair Winnie
Yes.
and Co-Chair Bates,
Yes.
and then continuing around, Commissioner Maddox,
Yes.
Vice Chair Fagan,
Yes.
Chair Bates Bright,
Yes.
Commissioner Neal,
Yes.
Commissioner Skipwith, Commissioner Arthur is a yes, Commissioner Smith.
Yes.
And Commissioner Munson.
Yes. We will get one to you, within a couple days. I'll get Mr. Jason check of that, so they'll email to you.
That each commission is whole.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Our second application is for 575 Wedgewood Drive. I'll start representing the applicant here. The request is a variance, or this is a special permit, sorry, to allow a food truck to be parked overnight. The code section is 3389.12. This food truck is, Los Chalons.
It's what? I didn't.
It's called Los Chalons food truck.
Yeah, I'm still.
Okay.
Yeah, we need to have one.
Oh, I'm not going to records.
Yeah.
And at the zoning committee meeting, we also unanimously supported, this request for the variance. I don't think that we identified any, issues with the property. Is that correct? Pardon me, remember? And so, I'll let you give time.
Not very many, I'll keep it short. There's been a truck, not the same one, about 10 years, same spot. So we've gone through, final site compliance we're going through, and I've got everything addressed that they want in addition to where the truck is being located. It's more than 25 feet back. It's about 24, 25 feet back from the property line, plus the distance to the curb. And there's some other adjustments, site compliance want that don't have anything to do with the special permit. So it's tucked back. And, they wanted more bollards around it, so we could move into it.
So there's one truck? Is there one, or there was one previously?
Yes, one truck, and there's a little area that he has 2 tables, outside tables for good weather, and then 2 bike racks.
Okay.
Yeah, if you look on the site plan, and I think, Mr. Brown highlighted it on here.
Yeah, it is.
You can see, where the food truck is basically that, crosshatched or line part, and then the bike rack is directly south of it.
And then between is just a pad, just asphalt, 2 tables. So, we're not taking away any parking. In fact, there's even more space on this lot to park, so they did ask us to shift the parking spaces on Wedgewood inward more. That again has nothing to do with this discussion.
Yeah,
So
so,
was the dumpster.
so some of the improvements the city requested, are not before us, but they requested it of the owner, for food truck operators.
And they won't completely approve this site plan until this, we go through the special permit process for the truck. So,
Yeah, the only thing that we're being asked right now is, are they allowed to park the food truck overnight? Because ordinarily, they would have to move it. Operating.
Okay. And what the committee said?
I think there were 4 of us at the meeting, they all voted yes to support it.
Chair, has there been any hardship expressed by any of the other operators in that business site? I don't imagine that there were, but.
No, there's a cocktail lounge, there's a grocery store, a convenience store where people have food, and I think there's one other small bar in there.
Yeah, but
So
it's-
they don't compete really.
Yeah, it's set away from, and there's parking in between, right?
I mean, the bar at the end there, the food truck doesn't serve food, so people go out there, will go outside and get food, come back into the bar and they're cool with that.
Okay, great.
And my client knows that the shopping center owns the convenience store.
Okay,
So he owns that business as well as.
okay, thank you.
Any other questions? Okay, I will move to approve this requested special permit to park food truck overnight at 575 Woodland.
We have a second.
I'll second.
Okay, and I will start, the, roll with Co-Chair White
Yes.
and Co-Chair Bates,
Yes.
and then moving on to Commissioner Maddox,
Yes.
Vice Chair Bates,
Yes.
Chair Bates, right?
Yes.
Commissioner Neal.
Yes.
And Harnett.
Commissioner Arthur is a yes, Commissioner Smith.
Abstain, I missed part of it.
Okay, and then Commissioner, Martin.
Yes.
Thank you. And so the result is 11, sorry, how many of us are here? 10 of us are here, so 9 in favor, 1 abstention. No, sorry, 8 in favor, 1 abstention, 1 absence.
Okay, so we will get that form to you within a couple days, if you don't get it for any reason, email me.
Okay, thank you for everything. Thank you.
And our third application, Mr. Gillette is representing, the applicant here for 2281 Sullivan Avenue. This is at Highland and Sullivan. It is the Sunoco, and their request is to, have a variance from 3321.01A, which requires that a dumpster be behind the primary building and not in a side yard. Technically, this dumpster as it exists right now is in the side yard of the property. So that's what they're requesting the variance from. And let me go through the notes quickly because we heard this application actually back in September. So there were other members of our committee at that time who are no longer on the commission anymore. But regardless, I'm gonna just kind of discuss what our comments were at that time. So I believe at that time, and I'll let you talk about this, but, there was an environmental court case regarding this property, is that correct?
Yes, there is still environmental, and the only reason the environmental case is still outstanding is this variance, and there's some asphalt that needs to be repaired that we have to wait until the weather changes to put the asphalt in. Other than that, the environmental case was resolved except for the variance.
During the committee meeting, we kind of had mixed, comments on this. Mr. Fagan, I think, voted no. Ms. Bruno, who's no longer on the commission, indicated that she would vote yes, but she would like to see some trees planted on Highland. Mr. Dallas is not here tonight, but is still on the commission. Mr. Dallas indicated he would be voting no, that it would be contingent upon beautification of the site. I was a no as well. I indicated that I didn't think moving the dumpster towards the rear where it's technically required to be would really be that big of a deal or a real hardship on the owner. So I was leaning toward a no vote as well. But Mr. Gillette, I will let you present.
So, the dumpster, this site is, I guess, had a dumpster for the whole time it's been there, but it was never on the original site plan. So when an environmental case was brought, the city actually initially said that we needed to put a enclosure in order to be compliant. So we put the enclosure where the dumpster was sitting. And then in a subsequent hearing, the city said, oh, there's a problem because it's also, you need a variance to have a dumpster, because it's, well, not a variance, you would need an amended site plan, because since your dumpster's not on the site plan, you need that. And then when we went to do a revised site plan, the city said that the existing location was not permitted under zoning code. And yes, you have to put it in the rear. The reason that we don't want to put it in the rear is because right now the rear is, in order to put it in the rear, you have to put a driveway in. And in order not to back out, there's an alley behind it. So in order to probably to have a garbage truck pull in, you would need a substantial area of driveway. You would also need a concrete pad back there. And you can see where the grass area is, that it would have to be, you'd have to put, it's a substantial cost to put a driveway in order to have a dumpster. It would not necessarily be, I think right now there's a fence around that area. at the city's request, we put a fence around the grassy areas. So the cost of putting a driveway back there is prohibitive. So if we do not get the variance, then we are going to simply use trash cans, oversized trash cans on site. We'll remove the dumpster, remove the enclosure, and we'll use trash cans, which we think are unsightly, and that giving us the variance and allowing us to do the enclosure would be a better result. We also think that having garbage trucks enter the alley and having to go back there and pull out in the alley is probably more of a nuisance to the neighbors that are back there, because it's all residential behind it. And the only other variance that is being sought is actually, there's a air pump that was moved. And I don't think that's a variance. I think actually that's just a site plan.
You talking about the tire pump that's on?
Yeah, I think that's just the site plan, not the variance. So the only variance is actually the location of the dumpster on the side of the building instead of behind it. That's it.
Mr. Arthur.
Sure, I'm sorry, Chair, unless you have any other final comments.
Okay.
When refuse currently picks up from the dumpster, how do they access the parking lot? I think I can imagine from here, but do they come in on the island, do they come in Sullivan, do they back in, do they make a big U-turn?
I know that the dumpster is to the side of the entrance, so, I don't know where they come in. They may come in and take a loop around, or they may come in straight. I don't know. I mean, they could go either direction. They have to pull in and then back up in order to do it. Or I'm sorry, they would go in front and then use the lifts, yeah.
Okay. Would the operators here open to additional screening and beautification in lieu of the full requirement to put in?
Well, the screening is, you mean vegetation for screening?
Yeah, blocking.
What they did agree to was adding a tree to Highland, and it's on I don't know if you have the.
Yeah, I'm looking at it, street view.
Okay, there's, they added a tree which is going to be where the city wanted it placed. On that side.
I appreciate that, I do.
So yes, they did agree to that.
Okay.
As far as the street view we were just looking at, that's a little bit older.
I was gonna say that doesn't
Yeah.
look like what it looks like now.
It's been repaired and everything, the pumps are operational.
Yeah, I was gonna say they had to replace or repair some of the pumps, and they had to dig it all out.
Yeah.
But it's all resolved.
I have it. So the only thing we're considering is, for the variance, is the moving of the request for variance is not moved.
Yeah.
Correct.
Correct. While I recognize that, I don't live far from that, establishment. And I know that it's a high traffic area for, illegal, activity. And so my concern is, a bunch of levels regarding this, location. Going to work, there's all kind of illicit activity going on, and it's been like that for a long time. So I just wanted to say that, because I don't want any more hiding spaces, for that kind of activity. And I know we're not considering that. We're supposed to just be voting on the variance, but I would like to see, an amendment offered that would help to reduce those type of things.
So do you mean in terms of, making it look nicer, or what? What exactly are you?
Yeah, so, because right now it's just this, in my opinion, being a long-term resident, almost 40 years. It's just a clump there, it's just this eyesore, honestly. And I know other folks in South Central Hilltop would, agree. And so I'm not quite sure what that would be, but just, yeah, some opportunity to make it look nicer. We're talking about new zoning codes, we're talking about the looks of buildings. Like, I think it should be, that I get that it may be, you said it would be a hardship to make a driveway and, all those things. And it would very well may be, but yeah, I would like to see something like that.
Well, I guess I just would say, I'm not sure how putting the dumpster behind the building would eliminate problems.
I didn't say that it would. That wasn't my conversation. Yeah. So my conversation, even though it has not a lot to do with, the dumpster, that's why I clarified in the beginning, like our conversation, our vote is strictly about the variance, the approval of variance.
And I would say that, the owner did work with the city to make some changes, in order to try to reduce problems with the, foot traffic of people walking along the street and coming in or maybe hanging around. So one of the things that they did at the city's request was to put a chain link fence around the back in order to prevent people from hanging out in the backyard. And also repaired the fence that was along the back of the store. And have repaired much of the asphalt. And I mean, I understand. I just think that, in terms of making dramatic changes of the inner landscaping, that it doesn't make a lot of sense for this particular.
Right, yeah, it probably doesn't for the particular owner or the business, but as a resident and a long-time resident, it makes a lot of sense to me, right? And I'm just saying that, because we've had conversation, I think you've been at the commission meeting, all night, and we've had conversation about drug houses and illegal activity and all those things on the hilltop. And, I just believe that we should try to do our best and require the things that we want to require, because that's a money-making opportunity. We live here, right? And so to do our best to do those things, but I do understand that we are just voting on, that's why I keep saying it, the variance, okay, the request for variance, so.
Yeah, the only other comment I'll make, and I'm sure you know since you live right there, but even though there's the enclosure around the dumpster, it's almost, I don't want to say it's almost always open, but I feel like when I go by, half the time it's open, even though there's an enclosure. So, obviously, the owner has done things to improve the property, but at the same time, they're not communicating with their workers or making sure themselves that the enclosure is actually doing what it's supposed to be doing. So that's the only other comment I have.
Has the creation of a driveway creates a hardship for the owner, you said, has the owner got an estimate or anything on how much it would cost to?
Well, it's really a cost benefit. And that is, do you spend, $10,000, $15,000 on a driveway and a concrete pad or more than that for that? Or do you just say, I'm tearing it down and you're gonna put in oversized trash cans? It just doesn't make sense to spend, 10, 15 or more on doing a driveway in the back.
Except it would if you lived directly next to it.
Yeah,
If you were.
I mean, if you live behind it, maybe not.
it's been an eyesore for so many years that it really helped for reveal. I can see it from a profitability standpoint.
I understand. What I'm saying is, I don't think that the trash cans will make it more beautiful, oversized trash cans. And what I'm saying is, he's not going to put it behind, okay? So the only issue is whether or not it's going to stay there, or whether you're going to put oversized trash cans.
Feel like that's some sort of threat, for lack of a better term, so.
It's not a threat, it's just, I'm telling you, from the owner's perspective, he's not going to spend the money to put a driveway in a concrete pad.
So, Co-Chair, if we don't approve this tonight, is that permissible for them to just put in other trash cans and not have other enforcement?
I honestly don't know what the requirement is for a dumpster, or trash cans provided by the city, for a business. I think that would be up to code.
There's no code that requires you to have a dumpster.
So then won't the cans have to go back to the alley to be picked up by a trash truck?
No, I don't think so, because it's commercial, and, I'm not sure that they have to move into the alley and have it picked up for commercial as opposed to the residential.
Okay.
There's no code requirement to have dumpster. It's always had a dumpster. The city pointed out that you need an enclosure. We put the enclosure in, the city says you can't have it there without a distance. If we don't get the variance, then we just have to put garbage cans in. That's it.
I have one more question. So I know, for some months that they were doing work with the pumps. What was that? Like they just had the store open. In the gas station, like you couldn't pump gas. What was going on? What was that?
I think they were replacing, there was a problem with the pumps and they had to be replaced. I don't know if it was the lines or if it was the pumps themselves, but I just know that they ended up having to replace them. And that took several months to do.
I think they might have replaced the tanks.
I just want to know because that was ice flow too, but I know it has to be done, right?
Do we have any other questions? Okay, so I make a motion to approve the requested variance to allow the dumpster to remain where it is, which is technically in a side yard.
Does anybody second?
I'll second the motion.
Okay, and starting the vote, start with Co-Chair Winning.
I am going to vote no because I think that the enclosure as it is now is not really used, and I can't say that trash cans would be any worse than how it looks.
Thank you. Co-Chair, please.
No.
Okay, continue with Commissioner Maddox.
No.
Vice Chair, please.
And I voted when she did no.
Chair, Base Ryan.
No.
Staying, I don't still have enough knowledge. Sister was telling me I was not abstaining, we both done a little more.
Okay, Commissioner Base
No. Because I live right next to Sunoco and directly there's.
I'm also a vote no. I think there's probably a better solution here. We can figure it out. Commissioner Smith
No, it's too much of an eyesore.
and Commissioner.
No.
Okay, so it is 9 against 1 abstention.
Our meeting next week for the zoning committee will be Tuesday, 6 p.m. At the Hilltop Library. We have 2 applications on the agenda. First is 1834 Sullivan, which is the new police substation. They already attended 1 zoning committee meeting. They reworked the site plan. They have provided it to us, so I'll send it around to everybody. I know that's one that a lot of people are interested in. And so they will attend the committee meeting and then probably be bringing it to the full commission for May. Also, we'll be hearing 665 North Hague Avenue. This is the Evans Carpet Junkyard. I think that's the one. And they are looking to split their lot into two, and then they need, looks like they have a planned addition, and then they need variances to be able to manipulate the two lots, et cetera, and setback area. So, we will hear that as well, on Tuesday, and do you have anything else you want to add? All from us.
Okay. Thank you. Next up, Community Relations, Chairperson Josh Maddox.
Alright, so we met on the 26th of March, and just kind of continue to discuss the summit. You can see our meeting minutes are on our website. You can kind of see the items that we've started to put together for the agenda. Various individuals come speak, panels, and such. I will be not available for the next meeting, the 23rd. So I believe we need to still have discussions, so we'll discuss offline, what will be done about that. I won't be here the end of the month at all, so, we'll go over that, and then there are, new door hangers, I believe, have been brought. So, a couple stacks, so take a look, grab them as you need door hangers, and, that's what I got for right now. More to come on the next meeting date. It's technically scheduled for the 23rd, but we'll talk and put something out from there.
Government and legislation, Chairperson, White here.
I think just that the next meeting will be that same day, Tuesday, April 23rd at 6:30 PM at West Side.
Human Services and Education.
That'll be me again. Just very quickly, I want to thank the commissioners and the community members who were able to attend the March 20 meeting at the library. Our major discussion topic points continue to be around the city schools facility plan and some other school-related items. I was out and about a little bit. I was able to attend the Franklin County Housing Fair on March 9th in Latonia. There was a massive turnout, so thanks to all our community partners and everyone from the community who was able to attend. I also attended a bike plus meeting. This is just me, and so the other commissioners have also been out and about the bike plus. And coming up on March 18 is the next West High School Community Partner meeting that I'm planning to attend. But before that, Thursday or Wednesday, April 17 at 6 PM at the library is our next meeting.
Okay. And Chairperson Stryker is not here. Does anyone else on that committee?
He did text me and asked to announce a meeting to follow the next zoning committee meeting, so that would be next Tuesday, the 16th. Following the zoning committee would be the liquor permit review committee meeting. I think would like to announce.
Okay. Next is Planning and Economic Development, so,
Yeah,
Smith.
so we, at our last meeting, met with Tracy Taylor and Boyce Stafford of Columbus Next Gen to discuss housing priorities. It's kind of part of a longer conversation we're having to develop a document which outlines our housing and development priorities, similar to what Bradenton Area Commission has. I think we learned a lot, right? Got, sort of different viewpoints, which we're trying to bring all views to the table. That way we can create a quality product. And so if you're interested in housing, these next few meetings will definitely be a great place to attend. But the next meeting will be mostly about the upcoming capital improvement budget, which we should have like our community input that's been from the Google form that you created, and as well as like a lot of the previous, requests that we've had. And, we should have, some documents that help everyone on the commission make a informed decision. When it comes time to vote, which should be in May or, June, we still gotta discuss that.
Yeah, 63 responses, sorry.
Yeah, 63 responses, which, I mean, that's incredible.
Great, thank you. Public safeties, co-chairpersons, Commissioner Moore's not here, so Chairperson Hanet Kimball.
So Coach Neil and I met last meeting. We talked about ways that we could partner with other organizations. We named some organizations, like the Glenwood, the Ashburn Center, and maybe reaching out to some community leaders as well. The other thing is we're also going to start reaching out to the churches like Bible Way Church, Holy Church, just to see if we can get them to adopt some streets and also participate in some of the activities that we want to do to try to we want to collaborate more and coordinate things, not necessarily trying to reinvent the program from scratch. And then we're going to be partnering with Step in the Right Direction on giving out gun lock boxes with the city of Columbus. It's probably going to be sometime in May. So Cody, I think is his name, gotten back with me. We just need to set a time and then we'll come and invite and then start. It's more likely it's going to be in the Columbus cities.
Okay, one of the buildings on the west side? Okay.
Sorry. Public library.
Oh, the library, okay, all right. Is there an opportunity for that to happen at the summit as well?
We can, yeah, that's a good option.
Okay. So just a little bit more about, the summit. There's, GHAC, this commission is hosting a, summit, June 8th. And it's gonna actually be here, in their auditorium. And so each committee, will be, having topics from their committee. It's almost like a state of the union, right, for GHAC, like what's happening, what's going on, like get your opinions, all those types of things. So save the date for that. It's on our website. Yeah. And everything is public information. So take a look at that, mark your calendars and be there and tell everybody to come. This is an opportunity for those that don't get to come to the, commission meetings to actually be, present and be a collaborator in what's happening on the hilltop. We're also gonna have, organizations there at the summit as well, that will have tables, to talk about what they do on the west side, on the hilltop as well. Okay. Last, committee, and that should have been in my report, right? So the committee, what, you got something else?
Yeah, I was just gonna say the date.
Okay.
So we're going back and forth on Thursday night or Saturday. I mean, some were good with Saturday, and then now that we're meeting on Saturdays, so we're saying that Saturday is not working out with them. So it's really difficult do we go back to a Thursday at 6:30 and see if that works again? Or do we just? Saturday?
Something that comes to mind so Human Services and Education and Park and Rec were often meeting together because James was chairing or co-chairing both of those. But Park and Rec meets on Saturdays. I wonder if there's an opportunity for our committees then to co-chair or plan, because Human Services and Education doesn't currently have a second committee that meets, that's those Wednesday days. So if we can reach out.
Yeah, I think that's a, great suggestion, which we tried to do at the beginning, was to have the committee meetings behind one another, so people would have to come 100 times a month. So, yeah, I think that's great, a good idea. Does anybody have anything for Rex and Park?
I can just say really quickly that, commissioners and committee members met on Saturday, March 16th at two parks that included River Bend and Alkire Run Park. Both parks were assessed using the rubric. There were some areas of improvement identified, but overall, nice amenities in both parks. The next meeting will be Saturday, April 20th. 9 a.m. I think 9 a.m. is the list. Yeah, the listed start time. This will be Wilson Road Park, fairly large park. which will go through and assess, and, it'll be paired up as an Earth Day site, so there'll be some litter cleanup in that day as well.
I have just a comment on Rexon Park. And I think we can just post it on our Facebook, but the Columbus, disability survey went out. And it deals specifically with a number of the parks, and whether they're accessible and what problems people have accessing parks. So, I would encourage everyone to take that survey, especially if you have a disability or you know someone who has a disability. Just to, make the city aware of, some of the issues with our parks. So I'll make sure we have the link on our Facebook.
Yeah, that'd be good, because that has to do with equity, right? So that's important. We have no unfinished business, but we do have new business. And new business is the purchase of printed thank you cards, branded with GHAC. Who's talking about that?
You want me to? So kind of a quick overview of this, as Joe just mentioned, we had some community members come out, that were from the scout troops, that I'm connected with as well, came out up to the cleanup. And I was wondering afterwards, like, hey, I'd love to write them little thank you cards for coming out on behalf of GHAC, and I could think of, the candidate forum and other events that we do. It'd be nice to have some stationery that we got branded and, can send out for things. So Ashley took the lead on designing up a few different templates, that we could go with. I don't think we ever, in our kind of email conversation, reached a conclusion on whether or not to have all the commissioners listed, which would then mean order a small amount, or not have us listed, just a website, or whatever, and I could print more to have year to year.
Is this the kind of, thing that we envision we could all sign and then after a meeting and then share back, or would you be handing them out like at events or?
I mean, I think it depends on, the type of event and what feels nice, kind of natural. So it could be the sort of thing where like the candidate forum, my approach is always the more context can have with folks, the better, so bring it back, we all sign it, send them on, or at that, the park cleanup, I hand them out the following Monday at the next scout meeting.
Any other comments regarding that?
Yeah,
Yeah.
I think the recognition is important.
One thing I would offer is to be consistent with what we've done with purchasing things, is to come up with the amount. And the cost and estimated, right, up to whatever, when you, propose your motion to buy, right? So that we can vote on that.
I mean, realistically, we could probably get a decent amount for, $100 or less, I would say.
Yeah. Any comments?
I'm sorry, are you gonna have them in the city?
You got, the process now.
Yeah.
Is to go to the city vendors, correct?
Yes, it's free.
It's
Going through the city, it's free, so.
Yeah. Well, at one time, we didn't know if it was really gonna be, but it is free, yes, okay.
It's free, put that with my own.
Everything those boxes.
I know, yeah, everything in that box.
Whoa.
So we still need to make a motion to go forward with it.
Yeah.
Do we still need to make a
So I'd
motion?
like to move that we move forward with, adopting one of Commissioner Montana's designs for, GHAC stationery. Thank you, guys.
I know, she did.
She did all.
Yeah. So the motion again is so that we can close up the meeting?
Yeah, so the motion is to adopt one of the designs and then have them printed through the city.
How many do you want to have printed? 100?
It's free, so good.
I think 100.
Yeah, 100.
100 seems.
100 seems good.
100.
I mean, there were like 10 guests.
Yeah.
200. Okay.
Let's get 200.
Yeah, well, can I offer something? Can I say 300 because we have the summit, so we're having a lot of speakers coming? and all those things, so let's do that. Listen, it's free. So let's make the
Josh is
motion,
saying 500.
let's make the motion and vote.
So we have the motion that currently stands from, Commissioner Bates that adopts one of the designs and bring 300, there's the number that I currently.
Sounds good.
Second. Can we voice vote? Can we just voice vote? Aye. All in favor?
Yeah, I mean, unless you want to do a roll call.
I think question's good.
Well, let's see, do we wanna do, I'm the chair, let's see what we wanna do. Yes, the vote, the voice vote is fine.
Okay, so all in favor?
Aye.
Anybody opposed? Anybody abstain?
I will send Melody the design.
I'm sorry?
I'll send Melody the design.
Yeah, and just,
That's what we did for the other stuff.
just pick it, okay?
And they'll come with envelopes, or we have to purchase those?
That's a good question.
All right, next meeting, we talk about.
Yeah, we're gonna table that question.
Please.
For our next meeting.
For stuff, that card that comes with the.
Well, we're having the city print it, so
Yeah.
Olabisi's gonna find that out. It's 8:42. Yes. I motion to adjourn the meeting.
Seconded.
What?
Before we do, I just want to say thank you to Steve Wasson, Barb Monk, and Pastor Ray, everybody that helps us at the last minute use this space. It was very, very.
Yeah, thank you very much. That's okay. And I also want to know, this is off, we're adjourned. There is a jamboree happening on the hilltop. We Amplify Voices is a nonprofit over here. And I have a couple flyers here, so it's a spring, jamboree, it's free, Saturday, May 11th, 1 to 7 p.m. at Hiltonio Park. And they have 1, 2, 3, 4, like 6, bands coming. Yeah, and there's gonna be, food trucks and all those things as well. Okay, so I have a couple flyers, we'll put it on, we'll put this on our website, okay? But I have a couple here, okay?